Day for night, down the garden path, and the Spiritus Trees Company, where midnight is noon. And here is a messed up photograph of the Metropole Cafe. Uh, in the midnight hour, and knock on wood, we're in constant rotation at the Metropole Cafe at the Metropole, the first topless bar in New York. Oh boy, getting off to a smooth start here. In New York, 1968, and they had a big picture window to the left of the entrance, and a big plate glass window. I don't know, 8 by 8, and you look right in. The old days. Presumably they didn't have an ordinance about that or something. I don't know. They paid somebody off. I was assistant editor on a documentary about mental patients who lived with their therapist. Also, something that was advanced. Therapists were still trying to stir up negative transference, which means give you stink eye. So they could, it was like the research period in that very new area of study. Anyway, enough of that. We were in the Brill building, Tin Pan Alley, right across the street and up 3 floors. You could see right in. Starting right at 10 in the morning, it was Los Indians who tuned their instruments once a week, whether they needed to or not, and on through the day, gradually getting better. I think this is what led me astray. Down the I know it is. Down the garden path I went quite willingly, okay, eagerly. I might as well have stumbled onto a temple. If church did this to you, they'd really have something. I was devout. As far as I was concerned, this was not devilment. This was heaven, or if not a real fun place on the lower astral. And the girls were real nice to me. They didn't fleece me. I was making $25 a week, so there wasn't a whole lot to fleece. But I was just 22, equivalent to a 12-year-old today, and things like this. This is also when I found out New York City is a drug. Once you're up to speed, if you leave, you pass out or lie on the ground, yawning and blinking occasionally, as I did every weekend when I went home. The movie, Other Voices, was nominated for an Academy Award. This was back in the days of moviolas, a funny looking thing up on skinny legs that looks like this. Okay, oh yeah, there we go. There we go. The little pedals to fast forward the 2 reels. A great deal of work went into synchronizing, and they all came with, every frame came with like this long number that you had to log. And oh boy, most of the handwork was done with a chopper, that thing, and Scotch tape. in a dark, rented office and all this gray equipment, and everything was gray. It's like, I really love this, but I don't know how much I want to lead. I don't want this to be a career. Uh, indelible memory of operating the movie of a scene we knew we were going to keep of one of the patients who looked a lot, who took a lot of style points from Marilyn Monroe, crying. Each time we came to it, down with the foot pedal, and then tears would start zooming down her to the bottom of the screen at 120 miles an hour. They followed the people for 3 years, so you were seeing actual character development, not some writer's handiwork. Uh, this was back in the day when therapists were still acting like the tar baby and intentionally stirring up negative transference. Still in the research phase of things, to put it kindly. So it was controversial to have a therapist being normal and even hugging patients, to say nothing of living with them. It was like him in a suburban house somewhere, New Jersey, and like 6 patients, a motley crew of people. One of the youngest, a teenager, hung himself, which didn't lessen the shock when my roommate did the same 2 years later when we were in Payne Whitney together. I never pursued film editing after that, too restless to hang out in a dark room all day, fiddling with scotch tape and keeping track of long, long frame numbers. Psychologically, I was still a hatchling, so it amazed me that someone could see a scene over and over and still gauge its impact for a person seeing it for the first time. A picture of Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby, drawing by E.W. Kimball, and the Tar Baby by John Chandler Harris, 1904. My mother read me all of those stories, and Disney made movies of them, also from a bygone day. After after work, I headed to the Metropole. I was still in college, Bard being the first co-ed school I had been in since the 3rd grade at Holy Trinity. Due to a ruptured disc at 12 from football, I was free from contact sports from then on, almost making it worth the pain. And for my college PE, I was offered modern dance. Being as it was 1965, I was the only guy. It would be hard to exaggerate how happy I was with this required course. Oh my God. This happiness folded over into after-work temple dancer attendance quite smoothly, simply by replacing black tights with a G-string and pasties. Granted, there were pleasant differences too. The girls were kind enough not to fleece me. I probably looked like a 16-year-old who had a fake ID. If I had discovered that they just invented ice cream, I couldn't have been happier at this new world, and about as innocent as if it had been ice cream too. Then it was off to downtown. All that was being ruined by everybody having hot and cold running porn in their house now, but on we go. Then it was off to downtown where my friend Lonnie and Evan had talked to landlords into letting them rent an entire building in exchange for paintings. That sentence looks preposterous now, but the building was right down the street from the construction of the World Trade Center. At that time, at that time, an amazingly deep hole in the ground. So it was only a matter of time before the building was going to be knocked down. After they stopped laughing and probably choking, the landlords realized they had round the clock security guards who weren't going to burn the place down like squatters and appeared to have trust funds to boot. So they're going to be there all the time. Oh, Lord. The former Spiritus Cheese Company was at Greenwich and Chambers Street. All the blocks from there to the river were condemned by eminent domain. Stephen put cockroaches between two slides and projected them on the buildings across the way. The people walked quickly when they saw them. The cockroaches, 2 stories high, danced faster and faster in the toasty hot projection light. Uh, I want to show this spooky story, photo of the World Trade Center at that time. Oh boy. At the water's edge was an abandoned pier. It made the whole area like a ghost town. There was all these like 2 stories and 4 stories, sweatshops and stuff left over, all of it defunct. At the water's edge was an abandoned pier, a long, long room with a sort of treadmill effect. It was 1,000 feet long, but featureless, so there was the sensation of always approaching, never arriving. At the far end, what looked like a small pile was the facing marble from a bank, neatly stacked. Something tempted us into hurling shafts of white marble at the black eels swimming in place by the pylon. Across the river, the Colgate clock, as big as a building, looked on. Sorry, I'm getting excited. When the World Trade Center was under construction, a large area to the west was condemned and set aside for redevelopment. In the event, the redevelopment was so bland, you'd think you'd teleported to an office district convenient to the Cleveland airport. Not even a lamppost or a curbstone to tell you you were in New York. Even the width of the street had changed. At the time, it was a neighborhood of 2 and 3 story brick small manufacturing buildings going back to the beginning of the century and beyond, now empty while their landlords waited for their ship to come in. Lonnie never left his studio, and the scene ran night and day. Midnight substituted for noon. Music never stopped, and people wandered in and out at all hours. Another picture of Lonnie I'll show later, where I repaired it at night just as things were getting started. And anyone might show up. And the music never stopped, and the television played with the sound off. And with luck, I could get a few hours' sleep as it was getting light out before heading uptown again. A picture of Lonnie lying on his, a bunch of magazines and stuff. And it definitely had the I was raised by servants look. There was the housekeeper. I once saw him sweep a tiny path and was just rubble of paintings and a little everything. Downtown, as we called Lonnie's place, where anyone, now ghosts, might show. Lee stabbed in the belly in Thompson Square Park, leader of a jailbreak of 26, 50 years for 2 joints sold by to him by 2 FBI agents. sitting with a shotgun across his knee in flooded New Orleans, taken off the street for organizing. Well, 25 of them went back to their girlfriend and got grabbed right away. And Lee went to New York, out of action, and lost to heroin within a number of years. He left a child behind. And then Laura, talking myself out of the hospital on a lie, coming to you in Connecticut, hissing and giggling in the bathroom, cutting each other's hair. Now the fatal news, locking time, me refusing to believe it, motionless on the couch all night, waiting to call your mother in Connecticut. Who else? An entire choir looks back from the semi-darkness. Then it's quiet. Carla running off for days and flying through the kitchen with a bread knife. All the sharp pieces melt. Nothing more to correct. Death canceling her depths. I think I must have one foot already in fight or flight because it did not land like a blow to get the news. It was a matter of a little bird telling me to call her. I thought I was going to hear that she was sick. In the business of being 10 years ago, then in the business of it being 10 years ago that she died when I got the news. Somehow I was with my birth mother, who my half sister told me was funny till the end. It was the perfect balm to hear from Carla's sister that she was cheerful about it. Carla, who had to walk to the Fashion Institute on 27th Street in Chelsea from 6th Street in the Lower East Side, with Carla chopping away quite fast because, as usual, she had taken an hour and a half to get ready. I joked that I was her pedestrian chauffeur. At times, she would take so long to get ready for one event that it would be over by the time she was through, and she'd have to begin again to dress for the following one. And then Steve, gone 10 years now, smiling from the roof of St. John the Divine in his hobo canvas shoes and ragged coat. Stephen, the closest thing I had to a brother. If we were in the same room together, his own mother would get us confused. Stephen, who making a religion of the image was good medicine and saved me from the treadmill of non-objective art, which was a big thing in art at that time. Oh my God. Anyway, dear Lonnie, center of this mad scene, gracious as his New Orleans ancestors, no doubt. Somewhere over his shoulder, his mother, rolled up in a rug by his brother when she set herself on fire and died. Lonnie, who then reappeared 20 years later, the perfect at ease father to two boys, and still the mayor in an extended art scene, also gone. 3 years after we were tossed out, the building boarded up, I went back on a bitter cold day with misgivings, thinking it a violation of the memory to see it lost and take a souvenir now. I went in to a little hole in the front, a place in total darkness, except where there was a light well that ran through the building. I was awestruck, not knowing what I was seeing. Blazing with light, a cathedral of ice rose to the ceiling. Multiple spires reached up like the drizzled towers of a sandcastle. And then what would be the apse, intricately detailed trip hammers, levers, taut wires. Oh, the piano! The water pipe must have burst. I was elated and relieved to finally get what I was looking at. The whole thing, just a little area, you could see the inside. And later, when we were all together several years later, and somehow we were bullshitting at night, and someone says, "Oh, it was the most beautiful thing you could see," and I immediately flashed on that scene, and my partner and the future mother of my child was there in that circle, and she said the same thing. She had done the same thing before I got open my mouth, and I was like, "Oh." Anyway, at that time, I reached down to get a piece of paper for a possible souvenir, and my hand struck perfectly clear, solid ice that covered the entire floor. And here's a picture. Hmm. I don't know what the deal is here. Happens every time I fumble around, but this is worth it. You've got to see this. uh, this is dumb. Oh wait, no, it's right here. Why did you go to work? What the fuck happened? Oh, I'm gonna do this, folks. I gotta do it. No, no, no. Let's give up on that. No, 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 no. Oh, yeah. This is the end, so you're not gonna miss anything. Uh, for God's sake. God, look like that. All right. That's Peter snoozing. Peter counts snoozing under there. Strange thing is I can remember every bit of that. That was 50 years ago. I look at it, it's like, oh yeah. The window, I don't know, they couldn't open the window, so they crashed it out and put two sheets of milky plexiglass, milky plastic sheeting, stapled it up too, for insulation against the cold ass New York winters. I don't know what electricity was still on and the gas, so but it was cold. Right. $25 a week. Babysitters get that in 1 hour now. Oh my.